Hello everybody, Bruce here with a hopefully short video that goes over something in chapter 1 called the chaos program. And this program's going to look a little bit different than the stuff we did in class on the first day of class. So let's go into Canvas. I'm in Canvas right now. You're going to need to go there too. And then I'm going to look here in, I think I call it week 1. I'm going to go down to, where is it? Right. Where are you? Here it is. Right down here. 1.6.5. 1.6.5. It's called chaos.py program. And here I tell you to download the program and then open it up in idle. So I'm going to click on the program here, chaos.py. And in Chrome, it happens to do just this, right? It shows me the code. So I'm just going to copy the code right here, edit, copy. And I like to work in Chrome. I don't know what you like to work in, but if your browser tried to download the file, you're going to want to move that file to maybe your desktop or a CTEC 121 folder and move it there, and then open it within idle. So again, I highlighted with Control A or Command A on the Mac, and then I'm going to right click and copy. So now I have in the clipboard that Python code, this Python code that you see right here. So I installed idle. I'm on Windows 10. I'm going to launch idle, and here it is. I'm going to make it full screen. And we're not going to be working in the command prompt at this time. We're not going to be working at the command prompt. We are going to open up a new window, right? So we're going to click on File up here in the upper left, File, New File. And it gives us, a blank area to create some Python code. So if you remember, I copied that Python code, that chaos.py code, and I'm going to paste it in here. Okay? I pasted it in, and as you can tell, here is the program, right here. Here's the program. Now, if you remember, these first 4 lines are comments. They are there just for they don't have anything to do with the execution of the program, the actual program running. They're just comments for humans like you and me, right? So something new here. Something new. You see a comment here that says define a function named main. Now this is new, right? What we're doing here with this one statement here that says def and then this word main with these open and close parentheses and a colon, we're saying that we are defining something called main. And main, you can think of it as like one instruction that's going to fire off a whole bunch of other things, right? So it's like if I call main, if I say, hey main, do your thing, right? Then it's going to run all the code inside of here, up to here. Now, you can see below here, right, that way to the left, right, all the way to the left here, I have this thing called main, this statement here that says M-A-I-N at the bottom, open, close parenthesis. And what this is going to do, it's going to call all the code that's indented below here. Okay, all the code that's indented below there. Now, if you remember from the first class, I said that Python was a good language to learn because it forces us to format our code in a certain way. And there's a reason why I had you copy and paste in this code, since it's your first kind of program, and not have to type it in. And I'll show you more about that as we go through. It's not terribly important right now, but the way that this code is indented, you can see that all the lines I have highlighted here are indented here. Then I have this other thing here that says for I in range of 10, and then there's more code indented below that. So let's go through it. All right, don't fret, all right? And you notice how idle, right, color codes various things because it's smart. it knows how Python code is supposed to be written, right? And when you're writing code, and if you find that things aren't like the other code in the way that they're colored, right? For instance, if you have a string, which you learned about on Monday there, right? A string here between quotes, between double or single quotes, in this print function. See how it's green? And then there's another green string down here. Okay? If you start to notice that when you're programming strings, say, and they're not green, then you know you made a mistake, right? Okay, so this is a program. It's called chaos.py. Okay, I'm not going to go into the details about what the program does, you know, why it does what it does, but I'm going to go into the syntax of the program a little bit so you can find out what's going on. So before I do anything, I'm going to save it because you have to save the code. I'm going to hit File, Save, and I'm going to put it on my desktop because you know me, I like to store tons of stuff. I'm going to call it chaos.py. There it is. And now I saved it, and now I can run it. I'm going to say Run Module. So it says this program illustrates a chaotic function. Enter a number between 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1. So not 0, not 1, but something like, 0.6. Whoops. Sorry about that. 0.6. And I hit enter, and whoa, whole bunch of stuff is outputted to the screen, right? Because this chaos program is, let me go back to the code here, right, is doing that. So let me go through. So do you remember it printed out, this program illustrates a chaotic function? In fact, let me see if I can do this here. Let me see. Yeah, let me see if I can do this here. Okay, so you see here, it says this program illustrates a chaotic function. Yeah. And then over here, we have this print statement. This program illustrates a chaotic function. Yeah, that's cool. And then it says, ask the user for input. And then I have this statement here, x equals eval input, enter a number between 0 and 1. You see that right here, right? So what that's doing, and I'm going to go right into the code here. This is a new function. You learned about the print function on day 1. What input does, it says, hey, ask the user for some information. And between these parentheses, right here, put in a string. And that string is going to be the prompt that you're going to ask them. Okay? Now, input by itself will get a string, right? So if you say enter your name and you type in Bruce, right, or Joe or Mo, whatever it may be, it's going to return a string and assign it to this thing called X here. But we need a number. We need a number. So we write this eval stuff right here, eval, open paren, and then a closing paren out here, and we wrap this whole input inside there, and that will evaluate whatever gets typed in to numeric value. Okay, don't fret, we're going to go over this in week 2 as well. Okay, so we get that number that the user types in, right? I typed in 0.6, right? And we assign it to this variable x. So x is storing the value, right? The next thing we do is we need to do something called repetition, okay? We need to do something 10 times, okay? And in programming, these are usually called loops. And in this case, where I said I wanted to do something a specific number of times, right? In this case, 10 times, we're going to do what's called a counted loop. A counted loop. Okay? So in Python, this construct right here, and believe me, okay, don't be like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? Just know that you'll get to know it, all right? So, and that's why this is week 1 and this is, the second lecture, right? So for I in range of 10, what this does is it says, hey Python, I want to do something 10 times. So it says every time, right? Actually, let me step back. This thing right here, range 10, says, all right, you want to do something 10 times? I'll give you 10 numbers. And those numbers happen to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not 10, 0 through 9. So how many numbers is that, right? I'm counting on my fingers right now, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is actually 10 numbers. Okay? So when Python starts counting using this range thingy here, this range function, the first value it's going to serve up to this loop to keep track of is 0. So the job of this loop, and specifically this I here, right, is to know what iteration of the loop we're on, right? So if I say, hey, if I said here for I in range of 5, right? If I made that for I in range of 5, that means, hey, I want to do something 5 times, starting at 0, ending at 4, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 5 numbers. Do the stuff, right? Do the stuff right here. Okay? So notice, for I in range of 10, it's got this colon at the end, okay? And notice here, up by the main, it's anytime you see a colon, the stuff below it's going to be indented because this code here belongs to this. We're saying do the stuff that's indented in the for loop here 10 times. Okay? And each time you do it, assign the value of I the current iteration or value of the loop. And I said it starts at 0. And that's why I have right here, calculate the value of x. And again, this is just what we call a chaotic function. And it happens to say, take the number 3.9, multiply it times the number of x. And if you remember from my demo, it was 0.6. And then multiply that times 1 minus x. And I am assuming you all have had like algebra and stuff like that, and you understand the order of operations, right? It's no different with computers here in Python, right? So 3.9 times x, which is 0.6, times 1 minus x, whatever that evaluates to, assign that now to the value of x and print it out. You see that? So now, the next time we go through here, the value of x that's going to be used here is not going to be 0.6 anymore. It's going to be the last value of x that was generated here. Okay? So one more time, okay? So the first value of x was entered by the user, and it was 0.6, right? Let me just show you. Let me go back here. Whee, right? So I entered in 0.6, and then it ran the calculation here using 0.6, assigned the value to x, printed it out, and then went back for the second run, the second iteration of the loop, because we need to do it 10 times. And we used now the value of x that was assigned to this during the prior operation. Okay, so again, I know, okay, you're all like, oh my gosh, why did I take this class? Okay, just bear with me. It'll all start to make sense. It takes time. Now, I just want to show you something here. We learned about the print function. Now I'm going to say print the value of the iterator I is, and then I'll put I, just like that. And remember, when you close the parenthesis, it highlights the whole thing here. We covered that in class. So let me just show you. Actually, let's move this right here, right here, right there. And let me just run this so you can see the value of I changing. Okay, so here we go. Let me make it big. Let's do, I don't know, 0.7 now. So you see how it said the value of the iterator I is 0, and then it printed out a number. Then down over here it said the value of the iterator is 1. See how it went from 0 to 9, right? Which is 10 numbers, right? Look, 0, 1. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it did this thing 10 times. Okay. How about that? Okay, so that's the chaos program, and it is explained in chapter 1 of the book. I think I may have added some additional lines here or something like that, but don't worry about that. Get the code, paste it in, run it, get familiar with it. And I just want to show you one more thing, because I know it's on the optional assignment. See how this number here is 10? You see that number right there is 10? Could we make that a variable and ask the user who's running the program, hey, how many times do you want to run the loop? How many times do you want to loop? Could we do something like that? You bet. Check this out. Check this out, right? So I'm going to put a comment. Ask how many times to run the loop, right? And then I'll say y, because I'm going to use a different variable because x is taken, right? Maybe not a great choice of variables, right? Maybe, actually, let's just make it how many times. How about that? That's a variable name. Camel case, if you remember, equals, and then eval input. And I like to get the base of the code in first, then I'll type the details here in quotes. I'll say, how many times should we loop? Yeah, just like that. Put a space in there. And then instead of 10, what do you think we should put here? We should put in the variable, how many times. So now, if we say 200 or a million, like I know some of you will do, right? It'll run that loop that many times instead of us hard coding in the number 10. So let me show you that. Check it. Run. Run. Let me make this larger. By the way, you see, let me just close this window because sometimes idle gets a little weird. Run module. Okay, enter a number between 0 and 1. Okay, between 0 and 1, 0.9. How many times should we loop? Let's say 3. Look at that. You see how it ran 3 times? If you want to run this program again, remember how we grouped it into this thing called main? Well, right from the command prompt here, the command prompt, type in main, open, close parenthesis, it'll run it again. Okay, so let's enter in 0.1, and we'll enter 100 times. And it ran from 0 to 99. Okay, a lot of material got covered in this video. Okay, in fact, I did one of the assignment things for you here. Pause the video, hit rewind, watch it again, ask questions on Slack. I'll be around. I'll answer your questions. And I'll probably do another video or so to supplement this stuff that I covered here. Let me just review one more time. I grouped all of this code into this function called main, and then I called it main down here, right? Because in programming, you're going to want to run code. You're going to want to reuse code over and over again, and typically you package it up into these reusable things that, these reusable, we'll call them packages, right? In this case, functions. So when you package up code, you're not repeating yourself. And in programming, we like to say, be dry. Don't repeat yourself. Don't for D, repeat for R, and yourself, for Y. Okay? So we learned that we can group code together. We learned that anytime we have this colon here, that the code immediately following it is going to be indented. And then we have a thing here called a loop. This is a counted loop. It does something a certain amount of times. And the range function, I would say go look it up on the python.org site under documentation. Range gives us a series of numbers, okay? And those get iterated through, and each time we go through this loop here, the current iteration value, 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be, gets assigned to this I. Now notice we're not using the I other than in our print statement over here. But in other exercises, you'll learn that you can use that I, that loop iteration counter, right, to do a whole bunch of things. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the Python command shell here. Yeah. Remember, type your programs right in a window, not at the command prompt. Okay. Got that? So what happens if you do this? Range of 10. What if you do this? Print. I'm sorry. Range of 10. Let's see what this does. So that's not what I wanted. Is it list? Range of 10. Yeah, okay, there it is. So what range is actually doing is giving us a list of numbers to iterate through. 0 first, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, and then 9. And as you'll learn in the future, right, you can do things like this. You can say, hey, range, start at 1, go to 101, and increment by 2. Whoa, see that? 1, 3, 5, 7, stopping at 99. Okay, so we'll get into why it didn't go to 101 in another class. Okay, so I'm going to put the code back up here. It's in Canvas. Okay, where are you? Whoops. Yeah, right here. So again, code's in Canvas. Feel free to play with it. And again, I did one of the exercises here for you a little bit. And I think some of the other exercises have you replace this statement right here, the one that's highlighted, with another formula, right? So just know, right? Just know that when you put another formula, right, the book has some formulas, or not the book, it's that handout that I gave. In fact, yeah, the handout that I gave. You're going to comment out the old one, and you're going to put a new formula, just so you know that, okay? So you're not going to keep all the formulas that the book tells you to type in. You're going to comment out one and add a new one, okay? So if you watch this video all the way through and you want some extra credit, just send me a message on Slack directly to me saying, hey, Bruce, I watched the video. And I'll mark down in my book that that you asked for extra credit because you watched this video to the very end. Again, if you have questions, hop on Slack, ask me. I'll be happy to help. So welcome to the first week of Intro to Programming. Have a good evening, good day, good morning, whenever you're watching this. Bye.